Am I the a-hole for anonymously reporting my ex-husband's family to CPS and ruining their lives? Long-time lurker, first-time poster. I'm using a very old throwaway account, and I won't be using real names because my ex and I have many mutual friends on Reddit, and I don't want this traced back to me. Also, English isn't my first language, and this might be all over the place because I still don't know how to properly tell this story. But I'll try my best. I'm a 38-year-old woman, and my ex-husband, Ben, also 38M, and I got married when we were both 26. We had been together since we were 19. For most of our relationship, people around us thought we were the golden couple, solid, loving, and always in sync. But there was one major dynamic that shaped our relationship from the beginning. Ben was a family man. He grew up in a big, tightly knit family. Parents still happily married, two younger siblings he called his lifelong best friends, and an extended family that had reunions and gatherings practically every other week. Birthdays, holidays, random Tuesdays, it didn't matter. The family came together to celebrate everything. Even Uncle Charlie being in town was cause for a barbecue and a family photo. In contrast, my background was, well, the polar opposite. I had a very broken and deeply traumatic childhood. I was abandoned as a baby and adopted by a couple who should never have become parents in the first place. My adoptive mother never wanted kids and constantly told me as much. My father only agreed to the adoption to try to save their crumbling marriage. It didn't work. My entire upbringing was filled with emotional neglect, physical abuse, and verbal degradation. I was told daily that I was unwanted, that I was a burden, that I should have never been born. When I was 10, my parents finally divorced. But instead of fighting for custody of me, they fought to avoid it. The court eventually decided I'd stay with my father. He was considered the less abusive of the two. But less abusive still meant I had no key to the house. I was locked out until he returned home at night. I had to wander the streets or hide in libraries until he'd let me in, just to have a roof over my head. By the age of 15, I moved out. I lived on my own, doing things I'm not proud of just to survive. But I made it. I earned a bachelor's degree. And while studying, I met Ben. He was kind. He was steady. And he made me feel like maybe, just maybe, I deserved a better life. He knew about my past. All of it. And when I was introduced to his family, I was overwhelmed in the best possible way. They welcomed me with open arms. His parents, his siblings, even the extended cousins, they didn't just treat me like Ben's girlfriend. They treated me like one of their own. I had never felt so included, so embraced, so safe. For the first time in my life, I understood what people meant when they talked about family dinners, inside jokes, and warm hugs that weren't laced with manipulation or fear. One of the cousins, Helena, was particularly close to us. She and her husband, David, were well known in their community, both involved in theater and local arts. They weren't celebrities, but they were definitely popular. Public figures with large social media followings, very active on Facebook. I even got to witness Helena give birth to her oldest daughter, Mia. I held that baby in my arms. I watched her grow up. I saw her first school play, first dance recital. It was beautiful. She was beautiful. But life, as it often does, shifted. Ben and I divorced when we were 31. It was a mutual decision, but I was the one who finally pulled the plug. There was no betrayal, no dramatic fallout. We simply grew apart. We still talk occasionally when we bump into each other at mutual friends' gatherings, and we've both moved on with new partners. After the divorce, I cut off contact with his family completely, not because I hated them, but because I didn't want to make it harder for anyone. I didn't want to confuse boundaries or divide loyalties. They were his family. I had been part of it for over a decade, but it felt wrong to stay connected. Still, I kept them on my Facebook friends list, mostly out of inertia. I didn't check in much, until one day, months after the divorce, something popped up on my timeline that made my heart sink. Helena had made a public post. Not friends only. Not restricted. Public. It called out 3 young girls by full name, accusing them of bullying Mia. According to the post, Mia, then 11 years old, had developed an eating disorder. She had started restricting food, vomiting daily, and lying about what she ate. Helena blamed it all on these girls, and by extension, their parents. It was a furious, emotionally raw post. And I could understand the pain behind it. But the way it was handled? I was horrified. And then came more posts. Over the next 6 months, Helena and David began checking in at youth psychiatric hospitals, often using crying emojis, captions like, "Oh no, here again." They posted baby pictures of Mia, paired with heartbreaking captions like, "Remember when life was beautiful, sweet girl?" They even posted photos of her bare spine and stomach, showing how thin she had become. Again, these were fully public. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It felt like Mia's pain, her trauma, was being performed for likes and sympathy. Her body, her suffering, was being broadcast to thousands. There was no protecting her privacy. No consideration for what that kind of exposure could do to a child, especially one already struggling with disordered eating and mental health. I messaged Ben. I told him what his cousin was doing was dangerous. He agreed, but said the family had already confronted Helena and David. Their response? We're only doing what's best for Mia. I couldn't sleep that night. I thought about myself at 11. I thought about what it felt like to be completely alone. And then I thought about how different that pain would have felt if it had also been posted online for the world to see, if my worst moments, my trauma, had been public property. I was already broken back then. That kind of humiliation might have shattered me completely. And so, I did it. I took screenshots of every public post. I compiled the photos, the captions, the check-ins. Then I filed an anonymous report to CPS, attaching all the evidence. I didn't know if anything would come of it, but I had to try. I couldn't just watch this happen. After the report, radio silence. Helena and David vanished from Facebook. No posts. No check-ins. No updates. It got so noticeable that people started commenting on their walls. Hey, are you okay? Every time, they replied with vague messages like, check your PMs. And that was that. I moved on. The disturbing posts disappeared. Whether they were deleted or made private, I didn't care. I was just relieved Mia's suffering was no longer on display. Fast forward 7 years. Mia recently turned 18. And 2 days ago, Helena posted something that brought everything flooding back. It was a long, emotional post, paraphrased here so it can't be reverse searched, but the message was clear. Helena wrote, "To whoever reported us to CPS 7 years ago, you destroyed our lives. You made our family live in constant fear. You made us paranoid. We lost trust in everyone around us. Was it our friend? A sibling? A neighbor? Because of you, we were investigated for years. Our home was inspected repeatedly. Because of you, our daughter became a stranger. She moved out the day she turned 18. And now we may never have her back. You were a coward. You didn't even confront us. You hid behind an anonymous report. I hope you know what you did. I hope it haunts you. Because you ruined our family. And I hope you're proud." I read that post 3 times. My stomach sank. My heart pounded. And I cried. I cried because I felt like the villain in someone else's story. Because what I did have consequences. Because, despite everything, I still loved that family once. I still cared about them. And knowing that they lived in fear, that their daughter cut ties, it hit me harder than I expected. But I don't regret it. I didn't do it to be vindictive. I didn't do it out of hatred. I did it because I saw a child in pain, and I remembered what that felt like. I could not act. I couldn't watch it play out like some kind of reality show. Was I projecting? Maybe. Was I wrong? I still don't think so. Did I ruin their lives? Maybe, but maybe not. Maybe I just interrupted a narrative that needed to be stopped. So, here's the question that's been haunting me ever since. Am I the a-hole for anonymously reporting my ex-husband's family to CPS and essentially ruining their lives?